You feel so productive when you do it and you feel like you're accomplishing so much. Oula. Hi everyone, I asked you guys on Instagram if you had some questions to ask me. So yeah, send me over some questions that I'm going to answer about learning Korean or just Korean in general. So stay tuned for that and let's get started. So the first one is, how long did it take for you to feel confident / comfortable speaking Korean, I guess? I'd say I don't think I've ever felt not confident or comfortable speaking Korean to others unless they're friends I'm used to talking another language with. So like all of my Korean friends, I speak English to them, so as they know, if they try to speak Korean to me, I find it really cringy and uncomfortable. But when it comes to talking to strangers or people I just meet for the first time and the first language that is brought up is Korean, I don't think I feel uncomfortable or not confident using it. And one thing that you need to know is that you're learning a new language. You're putting in effort to study and learn something that's new to you. And this is something that you should be proud of, and you shouldn't feel uncomfortable in using it to other people. I don't think you should wait for a particular time to start whipping out some Korean words or vocab or sentences to people you meet or strangers or Korean people in general. And honestly, I think, in my perspective, I think that if you are using Korean when you meet Korean people, if you ever go to Korea and talk to strangers on the street or ask for directions or whatever it may be, they're going to be really appreciative of you trying to communicate with them in their language, because it shows them that you're really implicated in the culture and that you're really understanding. So I think that's something to be super proud of, and you shouldn't be scared or uncomfortable. I think you should be proud and confident. So yes. Second question, how do you stay motivated? That's actually a really good question, and to be completely honest, I was super motivated last year. I went to Korea, and when I came back, I studied Korean mostly every day. I was super implicated in remembering all of the vocabulary and learning new stuff and all of that. But after a few months, when I started working, I had a lot less time and it took me a while to adapt. So it was a little bit harder to find motivation to study, but I guess what really pushes me and motivates me these days is putting up content on Instagram or even making YouTube videos about how study Korean with me or how I study Korean. These type of stuff really motivates me and pushes me to work and study even harder. And one other thing that really motivates me, it's when I watch YouTube channels, Korean YouTube channels, where they invite foreign guests, for example, and when they speak fluent Korean, when you hear them talk,
she's like, 이제는 너보다 평소 잘하는 것 같은데.
you're like, whoa, that could be me. You just keep telling yourself that this could be you talking as good Korean as them, and that, in my opinion, really pushes me further to study and reach their level, because I want to be able one day to go to Korea and be able to hold a super meaningful and deep conversation with natives. So uploading content, studygram, all of that, and watching YouTube videos. These are my motivation. If you have any other tips or recommendations, please tell me how you stay motivated, because we all need inspiration. Tips on starting a studygram. Before I answer this question, I want to talk a little bit about how I started mine. So basically, I started last year, I think it was in May or June when I came back from Korea. I was bored to death, and I actually started with a blog. The studygram came after as a way to complement it. But anyways, Instagram, I started because when I was learning Korean, I came across some words such as binge watching, to be mixed, to be a picky eater, those kind of words that would be a little bit harder to find in textbooks. So I wanted to make it more accessible and easier for people to find and learn unique or unusual words. And that's how I started, and I also really like just making content in general, making posts. I just found it so fun. But obviously, as time goes by and as you grow, the content that you want to share and create kind of differs. So that's totally okay. That's the journey you're on anyways. But honestly, making a studygram helps me so much. If I hadn't started, I would probably not be learning Korean or studying Korean anymore at all. I would be doing other things that are way less productive. So this is as your motivation to start a studygram if you're thinking about it, and some tips, like really just create and share the content that you want to make, because otherwise you're probably going to want to make posts that are going to blow up, or I don't know, but you're going to post once or twice or maybe 3 times, and at the end of the day you're gonna stop and you're not going to upload anymore. And all of this journey would have been for, I mean, I'm not going to say nothing, but it's not going to bring you to the place that you could have gone if you were more true to yourself and more consistent and really just shared what you wanted to create. So this is my tip for you. Just make it for yourself. Try to make a content that you know you're going to like, because if you like it, there's no reason others would not like it. If you just create content because you think that other people are going to like it but you're not so sure about it, I don't think it's going to work, because if you're not sure about it, if you're not confident about it, no one's going to be confident about it. So don't do that to yourself. Next question. How can I say bite off more than you can chew in Korean? Great question. Let me know if you know. I don't. Motivation as well as vocabulary methods. Motivation I answered already, but vocabulary, I think I went through it as well. But really just write down new vocabulary, new words that you come across and that you think is going to come in handy. Don't push things to later. Like, that happens to me often, so I know what I'm talking about. But if you see a word that you want to learn, write it down now, or like in the minute, in the moment, whatever. Grab a pen, grab a sheet of paper and write it down, because otherwise you're never, mark my words, you're never going to write it down. Or maybe you can prove me wrong, but don't push things till later, because otherwise you're gonna forget about it. And review every day. That's something I don't do, and shame on me for that. And also try to use the words or the expressions that you're learning and create situations to yourself. Like pretend you're in a show when you're reenacting a favorite drama scene, and then whip out all of these expressions that you love and that you've learned, and that way you can memorize them more easily and it's a lot more fun. Although if people are around you, they might take you for a crazy person, but we all are crazy, so it's okay. I can understand Korean but can't speak. So, can you tell how to fluently speak Korean? No, I cannot tell you how to speak fluently Korean. I myself am trying to reach that level. Fluency is also something that's super relative, I guess. There's different sort of fluency. Not everyone defines fluency the same way as others, but I'd say practice, read out loud a lot, speak. I guess that's how you're going to reach fluency the fastest way possible. Do you have a Korean name? Yes, I do. Do you actively learn vocab, anki, or do you just pick it up naturally? I actually never use anki though. Let me know if it's good, but I used to learn Korean vocab actively before, like on Quizlet. I took a lot of time and effort to make flashcards on Quizlet, but not anymore. Otherwise, I would just write it down and review it in the train or as much as I could. But nowadays, I don't do that anymore, and that's totally shame on me. I just try to pick it up naturally when I can. When I write in Korean, I try to use those new words as much as I can, but shame on me. What got you into Korean? Actually, Korean in general, since it's part of me, it's something that I before would kind of push away, and I didn't really want to associate myself with anything like Asian or Korean. But when I moved to China with my family and my brother came like for a summer, I don't know why, but he was so passionate about learning Korean. Like, not anymore, I took over, but he was so passionate about it. He would buy so many books, and I just saw him and I was like, huh, interesting. And then I think that's what got me into Korean, and I just continued and persisted when he didn't. But I think that's it. I'm not sure 100%, but I'll just say it is. How to go from English subs to native content, which shows dramas content do you recommend for this? I mostly always keep English subs, especially when I'm watching shows, because otherwise I'm not going to understand anything, and that's kind of a bummer. But as I mentioned, I always use a Netflix language learning tool when I'm watching shows on Netflix, and otherwise on YouTube you have subtitles quite often as well. I have a lot of drama recommendations. I've converted my dad into a drama addict as well, so I really like Vincenzo. I really like weightlifting, Fairy Kim Book 2. I think this is my go-to like light-hearted drama. I'm just so obsessed with that one, and it's just so cute. I really like Flower of Evil. Obviously, It's Okay to Not Be Okay. I think this show is amazing. It's a bummer that the drama happened with Soyeji, but it's still a masterpiece in my opinion. And I'll just write down a list of all of my favorite dramas. And as for shows, I obviously really like Running Man as well. I think it's really entertaining and funny. I also really like The Return of Superman, but I mostly only watched the clips on YouTube, and only the clips of Ko Seung-jae and Kang Hao. How is my bae? How is my number one bias? How is my ultimate boo? And Lee Do-hyun is also my Anyways, next question. Hi, do you have any book recommendations? I'm trying to find good books, but I don't know what. My favorite Korean textbook, but I guess it's harder to find, is called Master Korean. I've talked about it in some of my old videos as well, but this textbook is amazing. And I have so many different books. If that could be interesting, I could make a video about all of my Korean books and recommend some, say the ones that are not good and all of that, but I don't know. Yeah. Talk to Me in Korean also has really good books. Are you a fan of any K-pop? If you ever stan K-pop, who are them, they? I do listen to some BTS songs. Their songs are quite amazing and their dances are also amazing. I'm a big fan of like dances. The only other groups I'd say I'd listen to are Stray Kids. They're mostly solo artists for the others. Like I mostly like old school ballads, that type of stuff. Yeah, I'm weak. Okay, next question. I'm curious, how is it to be half Korean? Advantages and disadvantages. I'd say the advantages are that I'm exposed to two different cultures. Like, there's two different sides of me, and I think that's so cool. And to be completely honest, before when I was younger, I was a little bit ashamed of my Asian side. But obviously, I was young and dumb. When I grew up, I started learning how to appreciate this side of me, and I'm super proud now. I'm super happy because there's two sides of me. Like, I mean, not two sides of me, but there's two. I don't know. I just think it's awesome. But disadvantage is I don't feel strongly associated to anything. And another disadvantage I'd say is, I don't know if that's because I'm half or that's because I speak different languages, but the fact that I'm not fluent in one language, like when I speak French, I don't feel comfortable. Like I am low-key self-conscious because I feel like I'm lacking so much communication skills, and that's the worst. But anyways, last question I'm going to answer is, which learning methods did you use and didn't work? And actually, I think that's a super good question. Props to you who asked that, Sophia. Props to you. I do have one in mind, and that's something that I used to do and something that I still do, but I just can't help it. I know I'm not the only one doing that. I know a lot of people doing that, and it's a really common thing to do because you feel so productive when you do it and you feel like you're accomplishing so much. But at the end of the day, I realize that I never accomplish anything when I do it. And that's when you keep writing down grammar structures. I'm talking about the times when I open my laptop, I pull up a grammar structure from like Talk to Me in Korean or whatever, take my notebook and copy everything down. And when I do that, I feel super proud, I feel super productive because I'm like, okay, I can take that grammar structure and that grammar rule off of my list and move on to the next one, and then I move on to the next one. And the more I write down, the more I realize I didn't learn anything because I'm just copying everything and not memorizing everything. And that's just how it is for me. Like, I'm pretty sure it happens to a lot of people. Like, don't lie, I know, I'm sure it happens to you too. And I know for some of you it may work, like if you're doing it more productively or if your brain is working a little bit more than mine when I do it. But I think one way to improve in that is that I could continue doing that, but instead of doing 1,000 grammar rules in a day, I would just stick to one or two and then memorize those grammar structures like vocabulary. So for example, if I was learning the grammar rule "면 좋겠어요," I would just write it down, write the rules, learn from it, and then add it in some sort of vocabulary book for me to go back to and study from. But I don't know, that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm doing it completely wrong and you guys had the secret recipe that I don't have, so if you do, please let me know. Yeah, anyways, I'll end it here. Thank you guys so much if you've watched till the end. I really hope you guys found some of these things I said interesting. I hope it could motivate you, inspire you, or I don't know, answer some other questions that you had. And I hope you guys have an amazing day, an amazing morning, an amazing week, an amazing life, and an amazing Korean learning journey. I love you. I'll miss you.